Hey everyone, I've got another data update for you today, and I had some help on this particular one. Notice, by the way, that I have the wrong date for this. It's September 21. That's because I got the data together over this weekend, and I got some help with my students. I presented it to them yesterday, and so technically it's a day old, but don't worry, it's not that stale. We still have a lot of things to talk about. I want to start off with an introduction, specifically talking about Seattle's situation, the situation my students are in. And then I want to move on to a wide-ranging view of what's going on with the universities. Here's my typical way of showing the graph of the numbers of cases of COVID detected in Seattle. We have King County and Snohomish County, and again we have different thresholds for those. Both counties are well within the moderate risk threshold right now. And I want to remind you that the low risk threshold for King County is the same as the moderate risk threshold, so it's the 40 number right there. And we're about halfway there. Oh, and the low risk threshold for Snohomish is 15, so it's that red line down there. We're verging on it, and we're getting closer. It's a slow grind because basically it's been like a month that we've been at moderate risk. But it is headed in the right direction. And so I want to encourage people that the numbers are at least going down. Let's think about what those thresholds mean as well. Seattle Times had a story about how the thresholds that we have are among the most restrictive in the country. They compare them to many others. In many other places, we would be having schools already open right now. I can comment about that and what goes into that. That's not the point today. I just want to show you, at least even by our own definitions, we are at moderate risk and headed toward low risk, hopefully in a matter of weeks, if nothing else changes. I want to compare these to the C19 Pro predictions I always talk about. Those right now say that currently infected is probably about 0.34% of King County. That means if you sampled a random pool of 1,000 residents, 3 to 4 in King County should be positive, 6 should be positive if they were across the state of Washington. Most students at SPU come from the state of Washington. Therefore, I would expect, if we have 1,000 students on campus, I would expect there just randomly to be 6 of those being positive if everything was well mixed and homogeneous. And therefore, we detected a test at SPU. It is no question to me that we would detect one. The only question would be how long would it take. And so on Friday, the first test was reported in one of the on-campus dorms after classes started on Monday. And you see that we actually had 2 cases of COVID-19 back in March when we closed down the campus for the first time. So here we go. This is the contingency that we made our protocols for. Will the spread stop or not? What happens at other schools when they've detected cases? Well, I looked around. It's a little bit hard to find the information for small universities. But there is a Bethel University in St. Paul. There's multiple Bethels, but this is the one in St. Paul. And this one is very similar to SPU in many ways. They had their first case 5 days before classes started. And they also started before us. They're on semesters, and they're also, like us, rushing to get done as early as possible in case there's a winter wave. Well, this is what I followed the blog of Chris Gares, who's a professor of history there, and he had posted about 2 weeks in on September 11th that they were still going on. They had a couple of cases. Their protocol seemed to contain them. And I checked out their own dashboard, and this is the numbers that they have. A couple dozen students in quarantine and 2 students in isolation who've tested positive. The quarantine is for students who may have come in contact with a positive case. And so the policies for those are slightly different, but the numbers are within what it looks like Bethel University can handle. And as long as we have numbers in the same range, it looks like Seattle Pacific University will be able to handle these as well. So that sets the stage. Now I'm going to move across the country, and I'm going to appeal to my students' help. But before we do that, let me change the